What is something you changed your stance on after learning more about it? If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for new daily videos. That case, where McDonald's had to pay a bunch of money to a woman who spilled hot coffee on herself. Same. Turned out it wasn't so much her being stupid, but McDonald's management's blatant disregard and disrespect for her safety. How they acted in court is probably every PR manager's nightmare. Yeah, and she initially asked only for McDonald's to pay her medical bills. They refused, so she sued them and won millions, aka 2 days worth of US coffee sales for the company, though the judge ended up reducing that number instead. And somehow, she got painted in the media as the greedy one. She was painted as the greedy one by an expensive propaganda campaign to limit the reputational damage. Well, shit. Now my view is changed. Understanding why people shake their baby. Of course it is absolutely horrible, and it seems like it should make sense that nobody should even think about doing it, but I have an understanding of how it can happen now. I had my own daughter 4 years ago, and swore up and down that nobody but a monster would shake their child, but let me tell you that sleep deprivation is hell and it is terrifying. When my daughter was a newborn, she was crying very hard one particular night, and nothing we did seemed to soothe her crying. My insanely sleep-deprived brain started trying to take over, and I could feel the urge to shake her. Luckily, I had just enough cognitive function to recognize that I was in a very vulnerable and bad situation. I set my daughter back down in her crib and walked away for a little while, so as to wake myself up some more. That is the most scared I've ever been of what the human brain is capable of. My oldest was colicky, and at the time, my wife and I both worked retail. She only had 2 months unpaid leave for recovery, and I had a retail schedule. We were so very tired. My son would be up every 1.5 hours for 45 minutes all night, crying the entire time. We had to take shifts for sleeping and schedule 12 hours of sleep per night, so each of us could get 6 restful hours. I screamed. I cried. I begged. I very nearly almost shook to get his attention, but all I could think of was a commercial that played all the time in the early 90s of a crying dad who said, "I only wanted her to stop crying. I didn't think I shook her that hard." That commercial possibly saved my son's life. Bad posture. Edit. Well, here's what you can learn from this comment thread about your posture. Apart from me being mildly funny with a great pun, change it regularly. Stand up, stretch, sit down, rest, sit up straight, slouch a bit. Just change your position or posture regularly. The only bad posture is the one you sit in or stand in for too long. Proceeds to correct posture after reading this. I do physical therapy in elderly, and this is huge. I can tell who had bad posture, as they cannot stand straight up anymore, no matter how much I stretch them. What do you do as a physical therapist to help correct posture? Is it worth looking into it? I've had terrible posture my entire life and have tried self-correcting, but after 31 years of slouching, it's just uncomfortable, and the second I stop thinking about it, I go back to my old position. Imagine your nipples shoot laser beams, and you want to shoot everyone you see in the face with your laser, mixed with looking at everyone eye level or slightly higher, when not in conversation, to keep the chin neutral or upright. I will not think of anything but nipple lasers henceforth. Social media. I worked for an agency, selling social media services to clients, and I had to learn about it. The more I learned, the less I wanted to work with social media. It's a cesspool of lies, fraud, and illegal activities. Edit. People are asking for details. If you Google the poop funnel, you'll see how an impressive share is distributed around, and only a small percentage of your ad budget actually goes towards ads. Facebook is doing illegal stuff continuously, like experimenting on people without their consent, change their settings without their knowledge, and collect info on people who are not even Facebook users. Ghost accounts. When they get caught, they say they're sorry, and that's it. Facebook single-handedly ruined Snapchat by blatantly copying their system, just because they didn't want to sell out, like Instagram and WhatsApp, whose founders are very sorry about what they did to their users. Same. I only lasted a few months working with social media, Changed my perspective on it completely. Ads, TV, and data collection included. I have a degree in marketing, and by the end, I was so turned off from the whole idea of subconscious manipulation as a career. Not to mention, the types of people I had to deal with were aggressively eccentric and overall uncomfortable people to be around. Roundabouts. Based on all the complaints, I assumed they were confusing and unnecessary. When my city put in a bunch, I realized that I no longer had to wait 3 minutes at all of the punishment lights. Love roundabouts now. Of course that didn't stop the older population of the city from trying to have them removed. One guy even ran for city council on the platform that he would immediately put the stoplights back in. Change is hard, I guess. I never understood why people hate roundabouts so much. It's a circle. Just look left and go right. It's that easy. No confusing intersections. No long waits. Just smooth traffic flow. I'm glad you came around. I didn't think orthopedic shoes were for me, but I stand corrected. Take your award and get out. GMOs, and I encourage anyone who opposes them to look into them yourself. They're better for the environment and they feed more people. GMO is really just a method to design a plant to do something you want it to do. There can be bad GMOs, and there can be good GMOs. There are GMOs that are clearly good, like golden rice, which fortifies rice with vitamin A, and GMOs that are of more questionable benefit, such as pesticide-resistant crops, higher yield because of reduced pests, so potentially less land use. But the increased pesticide use does a number on insect biodiversity, so it's arguable either way. In my opinion, it's not about the method, it's about what you choose to do with it. We've been modifying crops for thousands of years to suit our purposes. This is just a more efficient way to do that. Climate change. Looking at the evidence, it's clearly a hoax. Just kidding. I was a firm denier until I had to do an assignment proving or disproving it in high school. Realized I couldn't find any decent source to back up my claim. Basically changed my mind on the spot. This was me. I used to be a refrigeration mechanic back in the day and was in denial about CFCs and ozone depletion too. How can heavy gases get all the way up there? Then I quit the trade and went back to school to study organic chemistry, and the evidence I was exposed to was undeniable, especially with IR spectroscopy. How can you ignore the spectrum of CO2 and how it contributes to the atmospheric window? Assisted suicide. I was against it, but after seeing my uncle suffer with extreme rheumatoid arthritis for a few years, before eventually dying from it, I'm all for it now. If we put down our pets when they're suffering, why can't we do the same to our humans, with their written consent? Not that you need to be convinced anymore, but there's a great documentary called How to Die in Oregon. It follows a few people on their path to a doctor-assisted suicide. I was always for it because, hey, we'll do it for our animals, why not our grandparents? But this doc really gives you the inside scoop on why it's a good thing for people, and at the end of the day it should be your choice, regardless of the reason. In my opinion,